I don't know. What is Tommy Pham doing? The guy goes on the biggest Twitter rampage of all time, responding to everyone. This guy has lost his mind.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season's right around the corner. Visit FanDuel app and start planning your future bets now. As always, I'm Brayden. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter because that's where a lot of this is taking place. At Brayden5 at Carter First 2. You can follow us on our main Twitter account as well, at Locked On Jays. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. This is going to be an episode. This is, I hate to say it because this is absolutely insane. I absolutely love when this stuff happens. When a player goes completely off the deep end and against the Blue Jays. I was confused. I was mad. And then I'm now just worried for Tommy Pham's mental being because I don't know what is going wrong in that man's head, but something is because you don't go on. Carter, let me set the scene first here before we really dive into it. So Tyler Heineman is behind the dish. Brendan Little is pitching. Brendan Little throws 3 straight balls. The third ball was a little bit, it was a little questionable. Tyler Heineman thinks he should have gotten the call, doesn't, maybe says something a little bit to the umpire. Then Brendan Little comes back, throws one more ball, walks Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham then does a bat flip after getting walked.
Like he's Jose Bautista in 2015. I just don't know what it is, but it's great. I'll throw it back to you guys. Have to throw that in. It was wild. Like the whole situation's wild, but that part specifically was just ridiculous.
I almost don't even know what to say, Carter. So okay, that all happens. Tyler Heineman then gives him like the sort of the what forearms, like what's going on? Why did you just bat flip a walk? And Tommy Pham then starts down the first baseline, stops, and comes back at Tyler Heineman. And then after all that happens, the bench is clear, the bullpen's clear, everybody comes running in, and it sort of chills out, but Tommy Pham's still like beaking on first base. And George Springer and Ty France are both trying to like calm him down. And he's not. He just keeps speaking. After the game, I'll go, I guess, Carter, I'll go right into the tweet because, you know, it was just insane. This is from Keegan Matheson. Tyler Heineman told us he didn't say a word, and you're probably just as confused as I am about Tommy Pham and the bench is clearing. I don't even know him. No idea, barely know who he is. It was weird, man. It was weird. It was unprovoked and super weird. Straight from Tyler Heineman. Then this is where it gets crazy. And I'm going to paint you a little picture here, okay? So Tommy Pham gets back from the game, sitting in whatever house he's in at the time, and he decides... He
might be in the clubhouse, man. He might be in the clubhouse doing
That's even crazier, that you're sitting in the clubhouse, scrolling Twitter, and this is your reply. And I'll put a little warning.
He was complaining. Just say complaining in the first word.
Sure,
the one
sure.
he used. He used a little bit more of a vulgar word that we aren't going to say on this podcast. But yeah, it's a crazy sequence of events. And credit to me for being a little bit later for this podcast, sacrificing our sleep because we got to see this unfold live on Twitter. But yeah, I'll throw it back over to Brayden to let it unfold.
So this is Tommy Pham's reply to that Keegan Matheson tweet about Tyler Heineman and what he had to say surrounding the whole situation. Complaining, quote unquote, complaining, because it was
the word he used starts with a B. You guys can clearly use your imagination on that.
About a ball not being called a strike to the umpire when it's clearly below the zone and away is disrespectful not only to the umpire, but to the hitter as well. So like I said, when I flip the bat, F him. At Keegan Matheson, dude has 2 years in the show. I know the zone. And that's not where this stops. Then people start commenting at him just on Twitter, Blue Jays fans, Pirates fans, and there was a lot of like, what's going on here? Why is Tommy Pham tweeting at Keegan Matheson about this? And then Tommy Pham goes on a rampage response to a bunch of people. There was one saying that, oh, well, Addison Barger does PEDs.
I got it here. I got
Yeah.
it pulled up. So he responded a bunch of times. One guy said like, "Oh, like I'll fight you right now." If I saw him along those lines, see you in person. He said something that you would not say if I was if we were face to face. So that was like how he kind of started it off. But then this is the tweet that I thought was very interesting. And again, we got this just before the podcast started. So for this instance, the guy's Twitter name is Pham Barger, and his profile picture is Addison Barger. So he comments, he says, they're 37, acting like this on a non-playoff team. Like the Pirates have, 54 wins now? I think they're 54-72. We can definitely fact check that on this podcast. But this is not a playoff team. This is a team that hasn't been over 500 since 2018. But anyway, I'll continue on. Non-playoff Pirates team, just retired, started family already, Tommy Tough Knuckles. And Tommy Pham responds, and this is the crazy thing, because Tommy Pham is on his personal Twitter account responding to multiple people on this Twitter thread. And he says, your profile picture is of someone who takes steroids, loser. So one of two things is happening here. And we're going to go with the second one. We're going to give, I guess, Tommy Pham a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, even though this is an absolutely wild situation. One of the craziest ones, I think, of the year. So the first one is he thinks Addison Barger's doing steroids. And unless he's got the inside scoop somehow, I know that guy hits balls really hard, harder than Tommy Pham is ever going to do in his entire career, ever in his entire existence. But maybe they can test Addison Barger. I think he'd be more than fine in doing that. Or he's thinking about Orelvis Martinez, who is not white and not in the major leagues right now. And there's just a lot of differences between Orelvis Martinez and Addison Barger. I don't know how you would mix the two of them up, but he might be mixing up Orelvis Martinez and Addison Barger. This whole sequence is reminding me a lot of this one player from the NFL who took his shirt off mid-game and left the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that is Antonio Brown with the generational run he went on after he retired. Tommy Pham might be the MLB's Antonio Brown. This guy is absolutely insane. There's a reason he did not get traded at this trade deadline. The numbers aren't amazing, but they're not horrific. This guy's a locker room cancer. This guy is a psychopath. And we call Max Scherzer a psychopath. We call Yariel Rodriguez a psychopath. But there's a difference between doing what Tommy Pham did on Twitter and starting something over nothing with Tyler Heineman, who is a guy that's, just doing magic tricks on his own time, really not saying anything, and wasn't saying anything to Tommy Pham in that instance either. If anything, he was talking to the umpire. Tommy Pham decides to take it upon himself and, make himself the spotlight once again, because, again, not the most luxurious career. But Tommy Pham is absolutely ridiculous and completely in the wrong in this scenario. Like even when we were done watching the Jays game, we're like, okay, we can talk about it all happening. Bat flipping on a 4-pitch walk is a little bit ridiculous. Then this whole Twitter thing unfolded. Just I think this might be the craziest things that has happened. Maybe other than the time that someone was trying to break into Brayden's car when we were doing this podcast. Crazy stuff happening on a Monday night out of all nights.
Well, so Carter, everybody's throwing their 2 cents in. So, of course, me being Mr. Twitter hero that I am, I had to throw something out as well. And I just, this is all I said, whatever, like it or hate it, it's fine. When it's my team that I love and cheer for, we're going to throw out tweets. We're on Twitter quite often as it is. I said, at Tommy Pham, responding to random tweets online, being this upset is the cringiest thing I've ever seen. And it is the cringiest thing I've ever seen, Carter. I could not imagine being an MLB baseball player, getting paid a ton of money, bat flipping on a 4-pitch. My brother got walked 3 times in our slow pitch game, and I think it would be more understandable for him to bat flip than Tommy Pham in that situation. I am blown away. I love it. I think this is absolutely hilarious. But Carter, let me ask you this. Do you think the Blue Jays are going to take this very well? Do you think Mad Max on the mound tomorrow is going to take this very well? There might be a fastball to the ribs. And I know that that's not necessarily where this team goes. But if a guy is being this crazy on Twitter and telling Twitter, the fans on Twitter or whatever, that he would F him up. If that's not we had one, Kyle tweet at us, he should be suspended immediately. That's a threat in my mind. Well, do you even attempt to throw something, or do you think there could be something that happens in game 2? That's where my mind goes, is now where does this take you for the rest of the series?
I don't think anything happens in a game because I think, honestly, if they threw out Tommy Pham, there might be a bench brawl, which would be awesome. I mean, I'm on board for that. Don't get me wrong. Like, maybe keep Bichette off the field. I mean, because we already, again, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was supposed to be the main guy we were going to talk about in this episode. Crazy that we're not talking about a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. injury off the top, but that is very unfortunate. Hopefully that is not serious. But maybe keep Bichette out of there. Keep George Springer out of there. Throw Yariel right in the middle. Get that guy just, bulldog mode. Just, let him go face to face with Tommy Pham and see if Tommy Pham can kind of buck up to Yariel Rodriguez. But I think if you throw out Tommy Pham, there might be something bigger that does happen. Is it a conversation? Maybe the Toronto Blue Jays, somebody's got to be on Twitter. It's probably not John Schneider or Ross Atkins, but this is probably going to get back to the Toronto Blue Jays clubhouse. You think in some capacity. I don't think anything is done, but maybe Max Scherzer does accidentally, let one slip and lose the command. Maybe just one pitch against Tommy Pham. I definitely would not be opposed to that. I think a lot of players and fans around the league would not be opposed to that either.
Well, see, Carter, and I think there is again, we talk about throwing at guys in certain situations, when it calls for it. You remember when Vladdy got hit, they threw at him in a very, I think, okay way. I've always said there's no fighting in baseball. This is their version of a fight in hockey. Stand up for your boys. You throw one at a guy in an area that's not going to hopefully injure anybody. And that is how you handle those things. Because then you say, hey, we're getting you here. That's the end of it. And that's how you sort of put put everything behind you. And I don't love guys being hit. I absolutely don't love it. But I understand in some aspects I don't want to say need for it, but why it's there. And why it's utilized. Because in a situation, and I don't think Tommy Pham does anything. I don't think that happens. I think that this scenario is going to just blow over probably in the morning or late into the afternoon.
Twitter's going to go absolutely ridiculous in the morning. Like, this was, I think, pretty late with some people aren't going to see it. But I think, by the time you get to the Toronto Blue Jays game, like for the professional baseball that will be played, I don't think anything will happen in there. But I mean, social media is going to be absolutely ridiculous once, the mainstream media gets a hold of this one.
Well, and that's the crazy part, Carter. And that's why, us having the podcast and doing it 5 days a week is so much fun because stuff like this pops out and we're just here talking about it. This could all come out and be that somebody hacked Tommy Pham's Twitter account late in the day.
I would be the craziest twist of all time. There's just no way I would believe that. Just be like, oh, sorry, my 5-year-old cousin grabbed my phone. Just blame it on somebody like that, even though they used a million swear words in his responses. I just think Tommy Pham's a nutcase. I think there's been multiple instances, maybe not this bad. I would love to see in the comment section if you guys can remember another instance where Tommy Pham maybe went a little bit crazy on social media. I can definitely remember a few times in his major league games that he did something a bit ridiculous. And this, I've seen multiple reports of just players, executives, anyone really around a major league club that Tommy Pham has been on. They usually don't have the greatest things to say about a guy like that. And like we said, Tommy Pham, the numbers aren't that bad. You'd think for a guy on an expiring contract, the Pirates would be able to get something for him. But a guy that's not moved at the trade deadline and a guy that didn't really generate a lot of interest during the offseason either. I think there might be a reason that is happening with Tommy Pham at this point in his career.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting. Obviously, Alejandro Kirk behind the dish in the next game here. It won't be Tyler Heineman. And I think for cooler heads to prevail, I think that's probably a good thing. I think if this is an Alejandro Kirk thing, and then he's got to go face him, back behind the dish again the next day, maybe that's a bigger situation. But I think with Tyler Heineman now being on the bench for this next game and Kirk being behind there, I would assume that cools the waters as well, Carter. So crazy situation. We'll see sort of how it all plays out tomorrow. Me and Carter will be on Twitter. If anything more happens or anything more is said, look for it on there. So again, Locked On Jays on Twitter if you want to keep up with sort of everything that's happening here. And if there is anything crazy posted, we're thinking it'll probably die down and it should be good. But yeah, this guy is obviously he's got a couple screws loose. So who knows what's going to happen. And this will make game 2 a whole heck of a lot more interesting than just Blue Jays Pirates. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's some entertainment value that we didn't necessarily expect to be for a team that's 53-73. That is the accurate record now after the Pirates do win against the Toronto Blue Jays. Congratulations to them. But a team that's, again, 20 games under 500, and you're Tommy Pham. And I guess you are beating the big bad Blue Jays, and maybe that is the highlight of the season. But a bat flip in that moment, absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that the bench is cleared, I believe that's the first time of the season the benches have cleared. Yep. It's something that gives you a little bit more value when you're playing a Pittsburgh Pirates team that in totality, other than Paul Skeens, who had a pretty good outing, are not very fun to watch. So I'm not really going to be that upset about the entertainment value. But if it was going to be anyone in the major leagues, I think it was always going to be Tommy Pham. Maybe for you, it'd be like a Bryce Harper. But yeah, Tommy Pham for me would be one of the first guys that I would think of doing something ridiculous.
Listen, Bryce Harper, he gets a little heated too, but at least he's a sane human being.
Yeah, he wouldn't go like this on Twitter. There's no way.
No, Tommy Pham is just something else, man. And you know, I remember like a bunch of years ago, I think something like this happened as well. I don't know if it was Twitter or something. I could be all over the place, but I remember something else happening with him. So if you guys remember another instance with Tommy Pham doing something like this, let us know. We got a lot more to talk about, Carter. I mean, we could go on and on. We could read you all the tweets that went down, but I would suggest go look at Tommy Pham's Twitter if you want to see just a person losing their mind on Twitter.
I got actually like a little bit of a breaking thing that I just looked into about the Addison Barger PED situation. So the rumor is, I think I got to get further confirmation on this, but I've seen multiple tweets about this from some fairly reliable sources. But apparently, Addison Barger was suspended in 2019 for amphetamines in the minor leagues. So I got to look into that. I'll probably do that during your ad break. But maybe that's what Tommy Pham is meeting, and maybe he just had a generational pull from Addison Barger in 2019. If he knows that, I mean, there might be a little bit more backstory there. But maybe there could be some clarity there as to why Tommy Pham at least brought up that one, but still going out of your way to, respond and it was just all of a sudden attack Addison Barger really out of nowhere, like you did to Tyler Heineman, is absolutely insane. But I figured I would bring that as a live update to the people before you do head into the second segment.
Yeah, no, for sure. Fair enough. We'll have to check in on that as well. But in saying that, we have a whole game to talk about. Obviously, the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. injury, John Schneider getting ejected from this ball game, and the absolute collapse that did happen. Sort of a disaster game here. I think this is one the Jays could have won. We'll get into all of that and a whole heck of a lot more as we're already deep into this episode, because what a crazy, crazy night. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how much I love FanDuel, and football season's right around the corner. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Today's episode also brought to you by Farm to Fork. You guys know I'm a huge Farm to Fork guy. Ross Levitan, that's sort of where it all goes back to. He had us over. I go, man, these are some great steaks. I'm like, where'd you get them? Because I used to get my steaks at like Co-op. And he's like, no, Farm to Fork, dude. It's unbelievable. They're one of the show sponsors. You gotta try it, or you're trying it. And I was like, yeah, this is fantastic. Carter was there with me. It was a great night. If you're a fan of premium, locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door, I've got some exciting news. Farm to Fork makes it easy to get high-quality steaks, air-chilled chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more, all with no antibiotics, hormones, or GMOs. Plus, everything comes flash-frozen and individually packaged for your convenience. All Farm to Fork meats are raised on Canadian farms. So when you order, you're supporting local producers. It's time to buy Canadian. I always say this. It's never a bad choice to support local and buying Canadian. I've got a special code just for you. Use code LOCKEDON40 to get $40 off your first order at Farm to Fork. Visit farm2forkdelivery.ca to start stocking up on the best meats around. Again, that's LOCKEDON40 for $40 off your first order. Farm to Fork, delicious, locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door. Okay, well, that was a lot. It was a lot of first segments. It was a wild evening for the two of us on Twitter, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but
I got an extension actually
to
the Addison Barger stuff. This is the last thing, and it looks like it could be true. I'm not going to say it is true, but this is a rumor and some speculation about what he could have meant when Tommy Pham, brought up the Addison Barger PED thing. I got a tweet from, Saras here. It's from The Athletic. So he says he had a few listeners reach out about the mention of Addison Barger's PED suspension in an episode before that they recorded. It's strange that there isn't a published story on it, but we are confident that he was suspended in 2019 for amphetamines. You can see on his MILB page that he was put on the restrictive list in 2019. It looks like it was in July. And we also confirmed with the team source that he was suspended that year. We'll clarify this on an upcoming episode as well. So I think we'll have a little bit more clarity on this whole situation, at least with the Tommy Pham stuff, probably tomorrow. I think someone will probably dive a little bit more into this. But again, just a crazy accusation if it's not true, and just like a crazy bold to bring up a guy that wasn't even involved in the situation whatsoever randomly just because a random fan on Twitter decided to respond to it. Just an absolutely insane situation. I figured I would throw that in.
No, that's great. I mean, I think to get clarity on a situation like this is great. I think it's absolutely talking about disrespectful. Tommy Pham, absolutely disrespectful to bring something like that up from 6 years ago. If anything, is just wild. But I think at the end of the day, I don't like to ever slander anybody on this podcast. I don't like to go outward and say they're a terrible human being, a horrible person. I'm not going to say that. I think other teams have said that. That's why nobody traded for this guy. This guy sucks. Tommy Pham sucks. And I will say it there. I know some people will say, oh, well, you shouldn't be talking about players like that. Well, when this guy is blasting fans on Twitter of this fan base, I ain't here for that. Also, when you are slamming our catcher, not a fan of that, especially when he didn't do much to you. So I want to leave this here, but Carter, that's my thoughts, my feelings. A lot more to get into, and I think why don't you kick things off with the big Vladdy injury that hopefully isn't too bad.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be anything major, but I'll be the one to say it. Tommy Pham's a bum. I compared him to Antonio Brown having CTE, so I'm fully defending my boy El Mago and Ashton Barger on this instance. But we'll leave that one, at least in the past for now. It'll probably be brought up in a future episode because it's just a hilarious story. But the thing that I thought we were going to talk about in this game, when your superstar, your $500 million man gets injured, you think that would be the number one storyline. But again, a very unique episode coming your way here for a Tuesday. But let's get into the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stuff. It looks like this was on a stretch, on a very nice play made by Bichette from shortstop, throws over to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., does the splits that we've seen him do a bunch of times. Like I could count at least 10 times at minimum. I think that's a very conservative number as well. That Vladdy does splits all the time. So looking like a fairly innocent play, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the first inning, which I thought was interesting, was grabbing at that hamstring. So it was reported that it wasn't the third inning, but Vladdy still grabbing the hamstring in the first inning. There might have been a little bit of fatigue there going into that game. Maybe made it worse in the third inning, but he was eventually removed from the game with left hamstring tightness. Not what you want to see from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. This is the update. There we go. I got it from Hazel May here. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will have an MRI tonight just to rule everything out. So it sounds like it's a lot of precautionary stuff. Would not be surprised if Vladdy does not play in the Tuesday game, just with all things considered. I think with the way the Toronto Blue Jays are playing right now, just the spot that they have themselves in, and this is a superstar, your team superstar, a guy that has been one of the hottest hitters, if not the hottest hitter in the MLB since the All-Star break. You probably want to be a little bit more conservative with a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Give him the rest against Bichette.
Yeah, Carter, I wouldn't be shocked if they rested him the rest of this series because
it's an off day Thursday as well. Give him 3.
It's an off day Thursday. It's a day game. Wednesday. So I just really wouldn't be shocked if they're just like, hey, we're just going to be careful with this. Don't re-aggravate it. Just have him out for the next 2 games. I don't love it. Obviously, I want to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. play. I hope that nothing is seriously done here, but I really wouldn't be shocked. So don't hang your hats on Vladdy coming back this series, I don't think.
Yeah, looks like Addison Barger, Daulton Varsho might have to pick up a little bit of the slack, especially with right-hander in Mitch Keller coming in the second game of the series, which we'll go into, obviously, in the third segment. But some other guys will have to pick up a little bit of the slack. Maybe we get really lucky and we see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the Tuesday game, and this is just like just a heart attack in the middle of a game or in a night that was very eventful. But it's always scary no matter what, especially when you had no clarity in that time where you just saw Ty France all of a sudden pitch it for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and we had no answers. No, it wasn't a good look, not a good feeling at this time. One of the worst news that you could hear probably on this baseball team. So prayers up for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Again, doesn't seem serious, but you got to definitely proceed on the side of caution with Vladdy in this case.
Yeah, you have to. I think probably, honestly, it might have been best case scenario because Ty France sort of got in the middle of Tommy Pham as well. So that was good. You didn't want that to be Vladdy and him put in a situation like that either. So good on Ty France, good on George Springer. But in saying that, we'll see what happens with the whole Vladimir Guerrero Jr. situation. I did want to talk a little bit also about the John Schneider ejection. I thought it was a good one. I thought this was a team that looked like maybe they needed a little bit of a spark. Davis Schneider gets called out on it was an okay pitch. It did catch the zone, but I think the issue that everybody had with it is that there were 2 pitches before that in the same spot that the Blue Jays didn't get a call on, and then Davis Schneider gets rung up sort of right in that same spot. So I think that Davis is thinking that, okay, that low part of the zone is probably going to be called a ball, and then it didn't get called a ball. So then John Schneider gets out, and he calls it effing awful, and then gets tossed immediately after saying those words, gets in the umpire's face. That was that.
Yeah, initially when I saw that play, Henry Davis, former first-round pick, but a very young catcher, horrible framing effort. It was not a good frame whatsoever. It looked like he was trying to frame the ball outside the strike zone on purpose, but that didn't seem to matter. Based off the Sportsnet, again, this isn't completely perfect, but based off the box, it looked like it was relatively close. I think just as an at-home fan with just seeing the frame job, it looked like it was like a crazy low. Even Joe Siddle and Dan Schulman on the broadcast were talking about how bad that pitch did look. Ultimately, it was pretty close, but I think the majority concern was that the strike zone was very inconsistent throughout the entire night. David Schneider definitely did not like that call whatsoever. When you saw it on the broadcast, or you heard at least, Schneider's kicked out, I kind of thought it was Davis at the start, even though it didn't look like he did anything. So, I mean, obviously he did not get kicked out, and it was John Schneider. But the third time that he's been ejected this year. Just with everything that went on, I don't know if this is one of those that he needed to get ejected in because, the Tommy Pham thing should have just ignited them enough. But just another thing added on to a game full of craziness. John Schneider getting ejected. I'll always be on board no matter what the case is for John Schneider. And always remember that athletics ejection where you check, I can't remember what the home plate umpire was, but it looked like he wanted to, just say some nice things to him, tell him a few secrets about how his day's been. But yeah, it's always fun to see, the entertainment value, whether it's Tommy Pham going crazy or John Schneider defending the boys and getting kicked out of baseball games. Unfortunately for the Jays, that was not enough to elevate them over the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was the day of Paul Skeens. So I think we'll quickly go into the game. Again, crazy that it took 27 minutes to go into the game just with everything going on. But I guess we'll quickly go over Kevin Gausman's day. The Pittsburgh Pirates offense is absolutely horrific. I believe they do not even have a hitter right now that has over a 100 weighted runs created plus. 100 is league average. That's among qualified hitters. So yeah, not a great offensive team. But when you have Paul Skeens on the mound, doesn't really matter. Your offense isn't necessarily going to have to do much. But going back to Kevin Gausman, I'm okay with what he did today. I don't think it was like the greatest performance of all time. It definitely was not bad. Like you have 5 innings of 2-run ball. But again, this Pittsburgh Pirates offense is not good whatsoever. But they are a pretty good team at home. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt there before, making it seem like that this was not a good performance from Kevin Gausman. Just pulling up their home record here compared to their road record, or at least trying to pull it up. I'm having some hard times doing that. So Brayden, I'll throw it back over to you while I get
No, that's all good. The piece on Kevin Gausman is, I think that he was fine enough facing this Pirates team. I would have been a lot more worried about it if they were facing a better lineup. They might have been able to do a lot more damage. Even though, and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit, I guess. You're at a 2-2 ball game with one of the best pitchers in baseball. And you're going into a bullpen that's not very good. I thought when this was a tie ball game at 2-2 and you got to Skeens and got him out of the game, I thought this would have been an opportunity for them to now take advantage and win that ball game. I thought they were going to grab one against Skeens. But to not do anything against the Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen makes me a little bit... that was just a terrible feeling in my gut because I thought this one was... If you were going to take one against Skeens, it would have been in a 2-2 ball game when, again, Gausman wasn't at his best, but he comes out and gives you, what was it? I guess 5 innings of 2-run ball, I think it was. Yeah. So, I don't know. This just seemed like a missed opportunity to me. And that really hurts, especially to kick off this series now, possibly without Vladimir Guerrero.
It's going to make for a very tough outing when you have Paul Skeens, especially when he does go 6 innings strong. But when you look at the Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen, like Kyle Nicholas was throwing 98, 99 pretty easy. I know the ERA and the underlying numbers aren't the greatest, but he's still a relatively like flashy bullpen, or at least does have that upside. And then Dennis Santana has had a very good season. He was one of those guys, at least personally, that I wanted the Toronto Blue Jays to at least inquire on. Hopefully they did do that. But I think it's just, it's tough to kind of cut it down to almost like a 3-inning game when you have Paul Skeens on the mound. Bichette was able to do some damage, a very good swing, just typical Bichette at-bat. I believe it was in that 3rd inning where they got those 2 runs, just, smacking the ball down the opposite field line, allowing that fastball at, to sit in 98 to travel deep into the zone. So they did have some pretty good at-bats, especially in that 3rd inning. Like Addison Barger hits a ball 116 miles an hour off Paul Skeens, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. I don't know why he threw him like 8 fastballs in a row. And with every single fastball, it seemed like Addison Barger was getting more and more on it. So again, that could go with the young pitcher, young catcher duo. But there were some quality at-bats in this game. And they didn't look completely lost against Paul Skeens, which is definitely a positive thing. Another positive thing is you won't have to face the Pittsburgh Pirates in the playoffs. So Paul Skeens, you had him in that one game this year. You're not going to face him again, obviously, for the rest of the season. You can kind of put this in the rearview mirror. But I think the overarching point of this is that you're going to face pitchers maybe not as good as Paul Skeens, but pretty close, at least, to the caliber of pitcher Paul Skeens is. So it's a very good test, at least for this Toronto Blue Jays offense, to see how they would fare against another pitcher like this. And I think overall, well, you only did get 2 runs and you did have some gritty at-bats. He threw 94 pitches in 6 innings. Maybe you want that pitch count a little bit higher, especially the way it was trending through the first 3 innings. I think overall, like, you can't be that upset about the Toronto Blue Jays offensive performance. But I think where the wheels started to fall off a little bit was in that inning with Brendan Little. You just had a few plays in a row where it just was not very good baseball. You had a wild pitch where, again, not really Tyler Heineman's fault here. That ball hit before the batter's box. That's the kind of thing you get with Brendan Little, especially in August. This has not been very good. 6 walks in about 6 innings of work. Not exactly what you want to see, but with that knuckle curve, obviously that gets away from Tyler Heineman. Then he does walk the next batter. Then there's a throwing error by Brendan Little, so not a very good Brendan Little performance. Throws that ball all the way into right field, does not give Ty France a chance to catch that. I believe there's another walk or hit after that. So that's kind of where the wheels fell off for the Toronto Blue Jays, giving up a bunch of runs in that inning. You get down 5-2. Again, it is the Pittsburgh Pirates team, but this team is very good at home. And that, I know it took me a while to circle back to this, but we did get back here. The Pittsburgh Pirates are 34-29 at home. So they are above 500 at home. When they get to the road, that's where they really start to fall off. They're 18-44. This is not a bad baseball team at home. And I think one thing that we're starting to realize when we look at the Toronto Blue Jays and how they play at home compared to being on the road is, for me, at least personally, I think I got to start valuing the home versus road splits maybe a little bit more, especially when it comes to a playoff scenario and with how electric the Rogers Center fans are. And I think just with the familiarity of the Rogers Center, having the same backdrop, having the same lighting from every single game, just overall comfortability in the Rogers Center, and then obviously the fan experience definitely goes a long way with making these players feel comfortable and help them with their performances.
Yeah, absolutely. A home series is so important. I mean, as you go further in, you're going to have to win games so you can secure that. That's sort of the point, right? Is you want home games. It's not just, oh, whatever, home or away, who cares? You play better at home 90% of the time. Most teams do play better at home. That's just how it is because you have your fans behind you. You do have that familiarity. And the Blue Jays have turf. And that does, as much as some people want to say it shouldn't make a difference, it absolutely makes a difference. Outfielders will say that it's tougher on their bodies. They know how to play. They know, hey, I can, maybe the cleats don't dig in as much, maybe whatever, right? There's so many different things that go into it. So home games, it's not, they can't compete if they're on the road, but it definitely makes a little bit of a difference. Carter, my man, we have been going nonstop. This has been just a wild episode. I feel sort of a little flustered. It's just I was so locked into the Twitter for so long. This was a lot of fun. I'm very interested to see how this carries over. So I think let's take it there. Let's talk about Game 2 with the Toronto Blue Jays now missing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Can they get the job done and still win this series after dropping Game 1? We'll bring it up right after this.
Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your Prize Picks predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up and college football isn't far behind. Whether you've got an eye on a big name quarterback or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. Fantasy football is one of my favorite fantasies, I think, of all time. Baseball is a lot of fun, obviously, but maybe a little bit of a long season, at least in fantasy terms. But for NFL football, it's electric every single week. I love my more than picks. I always go more than touchdowns. I like the anytime touchdown as well. I'm a big quarterback guy as well. I like to go with the passing yards predominantly. It's also receiving yards, rushing touchdowns. It's just I have some weird things with specific position groups that I usually tend to go on. And with Prize Picks, they allow you to use that creativity and allow you to make your picks on these specifics. So you can not only make yourself a little bit of money, but then break to your friends as well about your NFL, MLB, NHL, whatever it is, whatever sport you guys are watching, your knowledge on that specific league. So you can download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. Run your game.
So, Carter, continuing on, obviously the Toronto Blue Jays going game 2 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. They are without I'll say that right now, probably without Vladimir Guerrero Jr., maybe for game 3 as well. They're facing Mitch Keller on the mound, and Mad Max, he's back on the bump. I can't wait. This guy has been so good, so electric, and I think he's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. You go at Scherzer's teammates. He tends to use that into how he's pitching. This guy has always pitched with a chip on his shoulder. You can see it when he comes into games. He's got an attitude and a swagger about him. And I think that only feeds into what Scherzer's going to do on the mound. I'm very now excited for a game that I probably maybe wouldn't have been as excited for pre-yesterday.
See, I'm always excited for a Max Scherzer start, but I can't deny that this definitely adds a little different level, at least to this Toronto Blue Jays game. Maybe a little bit of upside, as some of the people would say when they're talking about the Toronto Blue Jays and their enjoyment watching. Because, like I said, as much as, maybe fighting's not a part of the baseball, but it's so rare, especially for the Toronto Blue Jays, that, if you get one of those games in 162, I think a lot of fans are going to be pretty happy with that. And I am one of them. Again, I don't want it to be George Springer, maybe Bichette. But maybe if, you send out Yariel Rodriguez, maybe Pete Walker goes out there and, gets a little scrappy. I'd love to see John Schneider and see what he could do in a situation like that. But I mean, hey, I know there's a lot of speculation. This probably won't happen. It'll probably be absolutely nothing. But it is always fun to talk about this, especially when the tensions were debatably as high as they were this entire season. Maybe going back to that Cleveland Guardians series when you kind of saw the eye for an eye initially might be the only other time that I can think of. But yeah, it should be a fun series still ahead of us, with another element added. It is still the Pittsburgh Pirates, so at this point, I still want a series win. Mitch Keller is on the mound, a guy that has been linked to the Toronto Blue Jays a ton. Obviously, was not able to pull the trigger. We got another guy, Shane Bieber, who is officially coming back on Friday. We'll definitely have to talk about that further on for the rest of this week. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Max Scherzer. Hopefully, continue on with the stuff that he has been possessing over his last 4 or 5 starts, and continue on petitioning for maybe even that game 1, but probably just in one of the first 3 games in a playoff rotation. But I'm right now, with the way Max Scherzer is pitching, and if he can continue that on, I am more than happy watching Mad Max roll out in a playoff game.
Yeah, a guy that's a veteran in this league, that's done this before in big situations. That will never be an argument. The
moment will never get too big for Max Scherzer at this point in his career.
Yeah, the lights will never be too bright. That's for sure. You're right. Max Scherzer's a guy that's I'd just be thrilled to see. Again, we were talking at one point that we just love to see him in a Blue Jays uniform. And then it was, oh my goodness, will we ever see him in a Blue Jays uniform? And then it was, oh, okay, he's back, but will he ever be good again? And now we're talking about him possibly pitching in a playoff series. So wow, how quickly things change. It is pretty crazy. What a wild day. This series is only going to get crazier. And Carter, I don't know. Well, maybe that's not true, but it could. Just sort of a crazy week for us. We had a lot of slow pitch to play. Playoff weekend is about to be here for us. And we got games all over the week. We're trying to get in some at-bats because we struggled in the first playoff game. Diamonds were in the worst condition I've ever seen diamonds in. It was soup out there. I could not get my footing in the infield. Still able to make a couple plays, but the bats didn't show up. That's for sure for us, eh?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly ideal. Maybe we need something to ignite our team. Maybe we
Did
needed
I
someone
fight
to do.
somebody?
I think Jar should have did a bat flip on a walk because he did have a few of those. So maybe that would have fired somebody up. Or maybe we need just John Schneider to get kicked out. We need him that managerial. We need Darcy back. Shout out to Darcy if somehow he's listening to this podcast. Probably not. It's a very long shot. But just wanted to say thank you guys for watching and listening. The likes, comments, all the support that we have received recently has been much appreciated. Who would have thought at this point in the season, and maybe looking back, we'll have to see what happens for the rest of the season, but somebody might say that the Pittsburgh Pirates series was the most electric series of the year. And who would have thought that we had one game? And it's like we had a 4-game series to talk about. We really didn't talk about the game a whole lot, but there was obviously some overarching issues that we had to discuss on this podcast. So yeah, hopefully Vladimir Guerrero Jr. does come back sooner than later. Good luck to Max Scherzer, obviously, against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Should be able to dominate a lineup that is not very good. And then, yeah, Tommy Pham, you're a certified bum. And that's how at least I'm going to end this episode. But Brayden, I'll throw it back over to you for your final thoughts. And like you said, a very hectic day in Toronto Blue Jays land.
Yeah, no, Tommy Pham's a loser.